The morning sun painted Maple Ridge Estates in soft gold, making every house look like it belonged on a magazine cover. Perfect lawns, perfect fences, perfect silence, until a black luxury SUV stopped outside Lot 27. Victor Langston stepped out wearing an expensive navy suit and dark sunglasses. Behind him followed two HOA compliance officers carrying clipboards. Victor smiled, not because he was happy, because he loved delivering bad news. He walked straight toward a brick home with an American flag hanging beside the front porch. The name on the mailbox read, William Carter. Victor smirked. "I've heard you're the new homeowner." The front door slowly opened. An older man wearing jeans, boots, and a gray polo calmly stepped outside. His silver hair and relaxed expression made him look like someone's friendly grandfather. Victor laughed inside. "Easy target. I'm William Carter." Victor pulled out several papers. "Your mailbox violates HOA standards." William looked at it. It came with the house. "Doesn't matter." Victor handed him the notice. $2,500 fine. William calmly read every page. No warning. No. No inspection. No. No hearing. Victor folded his arms. "I don't need one." William slowly looked up. "You sound very confident." Victor smiled. "I am the HOA President." William simply nodded. "I see." Victor expected arguments. Instead, William thanked him. "Have a pleasant day." Victor frowned. That wasn't the reaction he wanted. As he turned away, one compliance officer whispered, "Sir, that seemed unnecessary." Victor ignored him. He wanted fear, not peace. 3 days later, another violation. This time, improper flower arrangement. $3,000. Then, unauthorized driveway stain. $1,800. Then, fence color. $4,200. Within 2 weeks, William had received over $18,000 in HOA fines. Neighbors couldn't believe it. Marcus Hill walked across the street. "This is insane." William smiled. "I've seen worse." Marcus looked confused. "You aren't going to fight him?" William slowly folded another violation notice. Eventually, Victor wasn't finished. One afternoon, heavy construction equipment arrived. Workers began removing landscaping near William's property line. William walked outside. "What are they doing?" Victor smiled. "HOA beautification project." William examined survey markers. "They're 3 feet inside my property." Victor laughed. "According to us, this belongs to the HOA." William quietly photographed everything. Every marker, every worker, every measurement. Victor walked closer. "Old man, you're my neighborhood now." William looked directly into Victor's eyes. "No." A brief pause. "I'm in yours." Victor laughed loudly. "That's supposed to scare me?" William smiled politely. "No." Then he walked back inside. Victor shook his head. Pride comes before a fall. He had no idea whose fall had just begun. That evening, Sarah Carter arrived. She spread the notices across the dining table. "This isn't enforcement." William nodded. "It's harassment." She noticed survey photos. "They crossed your property line?" William quietly handed her another folder. Inside, old legal maps, county surveys, certified deeds. Sarah's eyes widened. "You've already started preparing?" William smiled. "I started the moment he skipped due process." Marcus arrived, carrying more photographs. The workers admitted Victor ordered them to move the markers. William leaned back. "Excellent." Sarah looked confused. "You sound almost happy." William looked toward the window where Victor's SUV slowly drove past. For 40 years, people lied under oath, destroyed evidence, manipulated laws. They all believed they were untouchable. He quietly closed the folder. They were wrong. Outside, Victor smiled as he admired the neighborhood. He believed he owned Maple Ridge. What he didn't realize was that the quiet old man across the street had spent decades destroying careers built on abuse of power. And Victor had just handed him the first piece of evidence. Victor Langston leaned back in the leather chair inside the Maple Ridge HOA office, a smug grin spreading across his face. The morning sunlight poured through the clubhouse windows as he signed another stack of violation notices. "Mail these today," he ordered. His assistant hesitated. Another fine for William Carter? Victor didn't even look up. $5,000. For what? Victor smiled coldly. I'll think of something. The assistant exchanged an uneasy glance with Emily Brooks, the HOA secretary. Emily had served on the board for nearly 8 years. She believed in rules. She believed in fairness. But lately, something felt wrong. Across the neighborhood, Judge William Carter sat quietly in his study. The room was lined with old legal books, framed court photographs, and decades of awards from a distinguished judicial career. Sarah Carter entered carrying a thick folder. I've reviewed every HOA notice. William looked up, and they violated their own bylaws almost every single time. Marcus Hill walked in behind her. I talked to 5 homeowners. He placed a recorder on the desk. They all say the same thing. William pressed play. Victor's voice filled the room. If anyone questions me, double their fines. Another recording. Nobody reads the bylaws anyway. Then another. The board does whatever I tell them. Sarah slowly smiled. He's documenting our case for us. William remained calm. No, he is documenting his own. The following evening, the monthly HOA meeting drew the largest crowd in the community's history. Nearly every seat was filled. Victor stood confidently at the front of the room. As always, Maple Ridge remains one of the best communities in the county. A few people applauded. Many didn't. Victor noticed William quietly entering with Sarah and Marcus. He smirked. Mr. Carter, ready to pay your fines? William smiled politely. Not today. Victor laughed. I'll place a lien on your house. William simply replied, that will be interesting. Victor slammed the gavel. Next agenda item. Before he could continue, Sarah stood. I'd like to review the financial statements. Victor frowned. Denied. Emily looked surprised. The bylaws allow homeowners to inspect annual financial reports. Victor shot her an angry look. I said denied. The room became silent. William slowly stood. Then I formally request that denial be entered into tonight's meeting minutes. Emily looked toward Victor. Victor's jaw tightened. Fine. She began writing. For the first time, Victor realized every word spoken tonight was becoming an official record. 3 days later, Sarah filed a lawful request for HOA records. Victor ignored it. A second request. Ignored. A third. Ignored again. William quietly nodded. Exactly what I expected. Marcus looked confused. You wanted him to refuse? William smiled. Every refusal strengthens our position. Meanwhile, Emily couldn't sleep. Victor's behavior haunted her. She returned to the HOA office late that evening. Using her access key, she entered the records room. Everything looked ordinary, until she noticed several missing boxes. Financial files from 3 years earlier. Gone. Board approval records. Missing. Insurance contracts. Missing. Emily frowned. She checked the computer. Entire folders had been deleted. Just then, a voice behind her. Looking for something? Emily froze. Victor stood in the doorway. His expression had changed. No smile. Only anger. You've become very curious lately. Emily swallowed. I was organizing files. Victor stepped closer. You organize what I tell you. The silence became heavy. Finally, Victor turned away. Go home. Emily left. But before walking out, she secretly photographed the empty filing shelves. The next morning, Emily knocked on William Carter's door. William invited her inside without surprise. I wonder when you'd come. Emily stared. You expected me? William smiled gently. People with integrity eventually reach a limit. Emily placed several photographs on the table. They're destroying records. Sarah examined each picture carefully. Marcus looked stunned. This changes everything. William remained calm. No, it confirms everything. Days later, Daniel Ross, an independent forensic accountant, arrived. Boxes of bank statements, invoices, contracts, and publicly available county filings covered William's dining room table. Daniel adjusted his glasses. This will take time. William nodded. Take all the time you need. 3 days became 5. 5 became 7. Then, Daniel stopped flipping pages. His face turned pale. Judge Carter, you need to see this. Sarah hurried over. Daniel spread several documents across the table. They've been paying the same landscaping company for years. Marcus shrugged. So, Daniel pointed at the company name. Green Horizon Services. He opened another document. Corporate ownership records. Owner, Victor Langston. Sarah's eyes widened. He awarded HOA contracts to his own company. Daniel nodded. Without disclosure, William quietly folded his hands. Conflict of interest. Daniel wasn't finished. There are more. Maintenance invoices, security contracts, snow removal, fence repairs, different company names. Same owner, Victor. Millions of dollars had quietly flowed from HOA accounts into businesses secretly connected to him. Marcus whispered, "This isn't just unethical." Sarah finished the sentence. "It could expose the HOA to enormous legal liability." William looked out the window. The board trusted him. Daniel pulled out one final document. "I found something even worse." He placed an old property transfer agreement on the table. William carefully read every page. His expression changed for the first time. Not anger, concern. Sarah noticed. "What is it?" William slid the document toward her. The agreement showed that years earlier, Victor had signed paperwork involving part of the HOA's common property, including the clubhouse parking area, without proper board authorization. Daniel spoke quietly. "If those signatures are invalid, the transfer itself could be challenged." Marcus looked confused. "What does that mean?" William answered in a calm voice. "It means the HOA's own property may now be tied up in litigation because of actions taken by its president." The room fell silent. Outside, Victor drove past the Carter home, smiling as he imagined another violation notice. He still believed he controlled the neighborhood. He had no idea that the investigation had shifted. This was no longer about one homeowner. It was about every homeowner who had trusted him. And the evidence was beginning to point toward a scandal that could cost him not only his position, but also place the HOA's own property at the center of a legal battle. The emergency HOA board meeting was announced less than 48 hours after Daniel Ross finished his report. Word spread through Maple Ridge Estates faster than anyone expected. Neighbors gathered in small groups along sidewalks and driveways, whispering about missing records, secret contracts, and rumors of an investigation. For years, people had feared Victor Langston. Tonight, they wanted answers. The clubhouse parking lot was overflowing. Residents stood shoulder to shoulder inside the meeting hall. The atmosphere was tense. No one was smiling. Victor Langston walked confidently to the front of the room, straightened his tie, and struck the gavel. "This meeting will now come to order." Before he could continue, Emily Brooks stood. "I move that we add a special agenda item." Victor frowned. "Denied." Emily didn't sit down. The bylaws require the board to hear motions supported by 2 board members. Another board member slowly raised his hand. "So do I." Then another. "So do I." Victor's confident smile disappeared. "Fine." Emily took a deep breath. "I move that the board review allegations regarding financial misconduct, conflicts of interest, and unauthorized property transactions." The room fell completely silent. Victor laughed loudly. "Is this a joke?" William Carter, seated quietly in the back row, finally stood. "No, it's evidence." Sarah Carter rolled a television monitor to the front of the room. Marcus Hill placed several large binders on a table. Daniel Ross connected a laptop. Victor crossed his arms. "You've wasted everyone's time." William calmly replied, "We'll let the documents speak." Daniel displayed the first record, a landscaping contract, then another, then another. Each contract showed a different company name. Each company traced back to Victor Langston through public corporate filings. Gasps echoed throughout the room. One homeowner stood. "You've been paying yourself with HOA money." Victor pointed angrily. "Sit down." Daniel continued. "The total value of these contracts exceeds $1.8 million over several years." More whispers filled the room. Victor's face turned red. "Those documents mean nothing." Sarah calmly held up official state business records. "They mean quite a lot." Emily stepped forward with another folder. "I also have copies of deleted meeting minutes that were backed up before they disappeared." Victor stared at her. You copied them? Emily looked him in the eyes. I preserved them. She handed the documents to every board member. The minutes clearly showed that several expensive contracts had never been approved by a board vote. One elderly resident slowly shook his head. We trusted you. Victor slammed his fist onto the table. You people don't understand how hard I worked. Marcus replied sharply. No, we understand exactly how you worked. Victor suddenly pointed at William. This is your revenge. William calmly answered. If I wanted revenge, I would have humiliated you. A pause. I came here for accountability. The room grew quiet. William's voice remained steady. For 40 years, I served the law. I watched powerful people believe rules applied only to others. They all made the same mistake. They confused authority with ownership. He looked directly at Victor. You were elected to serve this community. You behaved as though you owned it. Daniel opened the final folder. There is one last issue. He projected an old property transaction onto the screen. The clubhouse parking lot and part of the community green space were included in an unauthorized agreement signed years ago. Board members leaned forward. Daniel continued. Because the required approvals were never obtained, the transaction is legally defective. Sarah added. As a result, the HOA now faces litigation to determine ownership and correct the title. The room erupted. What? How could this happen? Our property. Victor's hands began to shake. He realized the consequences. His decisions had placed the HOA's own property at risk. Not because someone wanted revenge, but because he ignored the rules he was supposed to enforce. One board member slowly stood. I moved to remove Victor Langston as HOA President, effective immediately. Another answered. I second the motion. Victor shouted. You can't do this. Emily quietly replied. We can. The votes were counted. One by one. Every board member voted. Yes. The final result was unanimous. Victor Langston was removed from office. No applause followed. Only silence. As residents began leaving, Victor walked toward William. His voice was no longer filled with arrogance. You planned this. William shook his head. No, you planned it. You created every piece of evidence. I simply organized it. Victor lowered his eyes. For the first time in years, he had nothing to say. Several weeks later, the community held a special election and chose a new HOA board committed to transparency. Independent auditors reviewed every major contract. The HOA adopted stricter financial controls, required open access to board records, and revised its enforcement procedures to ensure homeowners receive notice and a fair opportunity to be heard. The title issues involving the clubhouse property entered the legal process, with the goal of correcting the defective paperwork and protecting the community's interests. One evening, Marcus and Sarah stood outside William's house. Marcus smiled. So after all this, are you satisfied? William looked across the quiet neighborhood. Children were riding bicycles. Neighbors were talking on their porches. For the first time in months, Maple Ridge felt peaceful again. William smiled. I never wanted anyone destroyed. I wanted the rules to matter. Sarah nodded. And now they do. William looked toward the clubhouse one last time. Power isn't measured by how many people fear you. It's measured by how fairly you treat the people who trust you. The evening breeze carried laughter through the neighborhood. The fear that had ruled Maple Ridge was gone. And everyone had learned the same lesson. When someone abuses authority, they may believe they're untouchable, but accountability has a way of catching up.
Subscribe the channel and press the bell icon for new updates.